Okay, who is ready to get started with querying? I know I am. This is going to be fun. All right, so we have imported the AdventureWorks 2017 database, and we are ready to get started with the actual scripting, with actual querying. What does the Q stand for in SQL anyways? It stands for querying. So let's get started. One of the best ones to get started with and getting acclimated with SSMS and querying in general is something that involves names. And here they have created a table called person.person, right here where you can see my mouse is. One of the things that you can do in SQL is to categorize your data. And what they have done here is you can see they've got a human resources category, a person category, production category, and sales category. Those categories are called schema. And you can apply all sorts of rules and permissions based on the schema itself, as well as do queries against just the schema, a lot of other things that DBAs care about. But just to kind of help you visualize and see what I'm talking about here, when I talk about the person table, I'm going to be talking about the person table in the person schema. Okay, so to get started with our very first query, what we have to do is we have to select our database. And then up here, we can click New Query. That is Control-N for short. And it brings up the scripting pane. And very quickly, if we need to we don't know what data is in this table at all, we don't know what columns are here at all, if we need to get a query done out the wazoo super fast, we want to return all of the data, let me see what is in this table. The command that we use is select star or asterisk from, and then the table name itself, which in this case was person.person. Now, the syntax of what we're looking at here is select, return to me, let me expand this, return to me all of the columns from the table person.person. Right here is where you would list out the individual columns that you would want to use. Now we're going to go into this just a little bit more, but right now I'm going to click the execute button right here, which you can also use F5. And you can see down in the left here, it very quickly performed this query and returned to me 19,972 rows in about 1 second. That's pretty good stuff. Okay, so pretty quickly we can see that quote-unquote Excel file I keep talking about, that it returned to me all of this data that was in that table. Business entity ID, person type, name style, title, first name, middle name, last name. That's the stuff that we're really going to be working with here. And then they got some other interesting stuff like an XML file here, and then the row GUIDs, and then of course there's some dates. So when you use select star, guys, that doesn't use the most efficient query possible. To get a really efficient query, you need to type out the column names themselves, because there's a decent chance that there is an index that is built on those column names. Long story short, those indexes make your queries run a lot faster. Definitely will save you from querying a table with select star from when you shouldn't do that. If you have a very, very large database with a very, very large table, running select star from could leave this query running for all eternity and literally until the server runs out of RAM, because it's holding all of your query results in RAM. So do be very, very careful whenever you select star from without doing anything else. So in this case, since we should have listed out the individual columns, the quicker ways that we can do that, first of all, we can expand the person.person, and there's going to be a little folder here called columns, and you can actually see the columns that would have been that are returned to us here listed on the left-hand side. Another thing that you can do, a super quick tidbit, is you can type select and then drag the columns folder onto your query pane, and that will copy them all here. And then on the very next row, we can do from person.person. And you can see my IntelliSense errors go away. Now we've got two queries in our query pane, and I'm not interested in clicking execute because that will return to me two results. What we have to do to run just this query is highlight it, and then we can click execute, and that will return the exact same query results here with just one row. Another very quick tidbit is if I want to clear the results here, you would just press Control R, and that clears the results. You can press Control R to bring them back. Okay, let's start getting a little fancier. What if I don't want to return all of these? What if I just want to return the first name and last name? Well, that's just as simple as typing first name, comma, last name from person.person. And when I run this query by itself, you can see it just returns to me the first name and the last name. So now I've got all of the first names and all of the last names together. Let's say I'm noticing a trend. Let's pick out a trend here towards the, let's see. Let's say I'm interested in taking a look at people with a last name White. And I needed to just return to me all of the results with the for people whose last name is White. So I would say give me select first name, last name from person.person. I'm going to introduce the third clause here in the select statement, and that is where. Where introduces a filter. And all we have to do to specify the filter, since in this case the last name is text, I'll say last name equals, then I'll do an open single quote, White, close single quote. And when I run this query, it very quickly returns to me 77 records of people whose last name is just White. Very neat. Okay, so we've got all of these people whose results, their last name is White. That is pretty neat. Let's say that wasn't exactly what I was looking for, though. Let's say I took a look at this data and said, you know, we need to expand this a little bit. I want to see all people whose last name begins with the letter W. I want to take a very similar query to the one we just did. First name, last name from person.person, but I'm going to introduce another where command. So we're going to do where last name. Instead of doing equals something, because equals means it is explicitly that, we're going to introduce the wildcard scenario, where it's going to be W and then a wildcard, anything that begins with that. And to do that, the command isn't last name equals anymore. It's last name like, open a single quote, W, and then the wildcard symbol is the % sign in Transact SQL. We'll close that with a single quote. When I run this command, all of a sudden we've got all the last names that begin with W. So, some really cool select statements that we've done so far, where we began with just the generic select star from, again, use with extreme caution. The quicker way to do this would be to select with all of the column names listed from this table. Again, use with extreme caution, because if you have a tremendous number of rows, that query will run for all eternity and eat up your RAM. What you always want to try and do, if you can help it, is introduce a where clause. So where last name equals something, or where a last name is like something. There's one more where clause that I would like to introduce, and that is going to be select first name, last name from person where, and let's say I want to pull out everyone whose last name is Wagner as well as Walker. So this is going to be where last name in means it includes these two results. So it's like having an equal sign where there's going to be a list that follows it. So it looks like this. We're going to do in open parentheses Wagner, that's in quotes, of course, single quotes, comma, and we'll do the quotes again, Walker, close quotes, parentheses. So now we've got a command that says where last name is in Wagner and Walker. It includes Wagner and Walker. What happens if we run it? We get the Wagners and the Walkers. Just the Wagners and the Walkers. So, another very cool query. In is going to be a popular one for you. You're going to use it a lot. Okay, now the last one, I'm going to go back to this query so we can look at all our results. Something that you're going to also use a lot is sorting, and ordering is what it's called. And very, very, very common to order your data based on a date. You would be interested in maybe showing me the oldest items first or the newest items first. I don't care about the old things. The way you would do that is right at the end of your query, even after you've typed your where clause if you have one, is to type order by, and I'm going to specify modified date. And in this case, I want the newest results first, so I'm going to say descending, D-E-S-C. If I were to not specify D-E-S-C, the default is to be ascending. So that way it starts with the oldest and comes to the newest. Let's start with the newest, though, and go to the oldest. And when I run this query, watch what happens to the modified date and the results itself. It runs the query. Now the modified date starts with the newest results, and it goes backwards, just like we specified. And of course, that does take impact on the rest of it. This has been a crash course into your first querying session. Try it out. Go explore the different tables that are around here. Expand those tables, look at the column list, and see if you can find some interesting things in there too. All right, when we move forward, we are going to be talking about joins and aliases. All right, this is going to be fun. We'll talk to you guys in the next one.